Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Thanks for being with us. Here's what's making news tonight. As more people turn to shelters, one organization is working to address the needs and raise more funds. We'll tell you how. Plus, should people struggling with mental illness or addiction be forced to get help against their will? One Ontario mayor says yes. And would a Ferris wheel on our riverfront attract more tourism? We go to Detroit to find out. Staff at Windsor's largest emergency shelter, the Downtown Mission, are spending 24 hours on a bench outside. They're hoping members of the public will stop by to learn about their work. The bench talks, as they're called, come at a time when the mission is facing unprecedented demand. Chris Ensing has more.
The bench talks are happening on a pretty warm night this year, and that's highlighting a problem to come. See, the mission and other shelter services have been operating near capacity this summer, doing what they would usually do for surge capacity on the coldest nights of the year and some of the warmest. And it's left people wondering what they're going to do when the snow starts to fall.
Started having those conversations actually in the summer, which don't typically happen till late fall, because that's when the numbers usually start rising and we start getting closer to the 100% mark in our shelters. All three of our shelters were experiencing that even in the summer this year, which is a little shocking, and we were just like, wow, where is this, why is this happening? Where is this coming from, and how are we going to prepare for the winter? So we've been having these conversations for the last couple of months, for sure, and we're thinking to see how can we make sure we do have capacity, at least across our shelter system, and if not across our shelter system, because our shelters are at capacity in the winter perhaps, who else can we turn to now so that we're ready for the winter as a community? We're normally at the Mission, at least. I'm not sure about the Salvation Army and the Welcome Center, but at the Mission we're typically at about 80% in the summer months, especially on nicer days and nights. But this year we were anywhere between 95 to even 100% sometimes, because our beds were all full and we may have had a little bit of room perhaps on our crash mats or in our dining hall.
This week, the city heard from councillors warning that the homelessness problem is about to burst, that it's been growing, which the numbers support, and there's concerns about what to do next. But for tonight, people can show up, grab a spot on the bench and have a conversation with staff of the Downtown Mission. And there's also a big white piece of Bristol board that people have been encouraged to sign. Some have left message of hope and belief in a better future. Others saying they've used this space before and are looking for a way to give back. And that's something that I've watched happen as well. People folding up money into paper and handing it off to the executive director. They don't want a receipt. They don't want their name mentioned. They just want to help. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
Windsor, like many communities, is grappling with how to address the growing number of people dealing with addiction and mental health issues. One Ontario city has a contentious solution. Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown has announced the city will advocate to treat more people with brain injuries, mental illness, and addictions against their will. It's a controversial call to action, which would require legislative changes. Chris Glover has the details.
Here in Brampton, Mayor Patrick Brown has put forward a controversial idea. He wants the province to change the Mental Health Act in a pilot project to allow municipalities like Brampton to be able to force people into treatment if they're struggling with severe addiction issues, mental health issues, or brain injuries. He would want to empower first responders to place people in psychiatric facilities, but only if deemed necessary by a doctor. And Patrick Brown says that the need for all of this is quite clear when you look at the streets of Brampton, the homelessness issue, the encampment issue, and also the number of opioid deaths as well. He pointed out that in Brampton since 2010, mental health ER visits have surged by 100%. 121%. And he also pointed out that in Peel region in the last 5 years, 705 people have died from the toxic drug supply. Brown says that the current voluntary treatment model is not working, and so he's looking to British Columbia as a model. Now, BC just last month implemented a similar program of involuntary treatment programs, and Brown says he wants that here in Ontario and here in Brampton. The Canadian Civil Liberties Association has raised some concerns with all of this, saying it might infringe on people's rights and it also may be unconstitutional. I put that to Patrick Brown along with one of the councillors here in Brampton, and here's what they had to say.
Well, certainly what has been presented in BC could be tested in the courts, and I think there is an indication that it will. But we simply can't accept hundreds and hundreds of preventable fatalities. And, you know, we've obviously been doing extensive consultation on this with those that are working in this space. And, you know, one response I was given is if someone's in the midst of a heart attack and is not able to explain they need to go to the hospital, you're still taking them to the hospital for treatment. And, you know, there are individuals who are on the verge of a fatality that desperately need treatment. And, you know, as a society, are we going to allow more and more of these preventable fatalities?
This treatment should be seen as a last resort, used only when an individual poses a serious threat to themselves or others and when less intrusive measures have been completely exhausted.
In order for this change to go ahead, the Ontario government would have to make a change to the Mental Health Act. And I reached out to the province today for a statement. They said that their priority remains connecting people who want treatment with the care that they need. Yet yesterday, Doug Ford had this to say.
We're looking at it. I know my minister, Michael Tabolo, is a big fan of it, but we have to look into it pretty deep. So I'm always open to any idea.
So it's still unclear what the Ontario Premier will do about all this, given the fact that there are concerns, as I mentioned, that this might infringe on people's rights.
That was CBC reporter Chris Glover reporting from Brampton. Let's take a live look there at Windsor's Riverfront. It's nice to park along the water and go for a walk, but is parking the best way to use some of that space? Well, one city councillor says no and has some ideas that are catching the eyes of some at home and some abroad. Jacob Barker has that story.
Here on the Detroit Riverfront, there's a very nice view of downtown Windsor, but is it nice enough to draw people across the border to visit? Well, there's one idea spinning around in Windsor right now that could do just that.
That's beautiful.
I love it.
Jessica Marino and Regina Martin haven't been across to Windsor in a while, but this idea has them thinking twice. In case you're wondering what they're looking at, it's a Ferris wheel.
That would definitely be inviting and more like fun date, easy to go. It's just right across the border.
I would go.
Yeah. It's just an adventure it waits.
The idea came up back on our side of the water through Councillor Ronaldo Agostino. He's asked the city administration to look at better ways to use space along the riverfront on our side.
Well, the idea is there an opportunity for us to repurpose some of these parking lots on the riverfront? I look at this as prime real estate that can draw people to our downtown core. And right now, what it's being used for is to come down, enjoy the waterfront, jump in your car, and then drive home.
Agostino says the Ferris wheel is just one idea of ways to develop the riverfront. He hopes it would encourage people on both sides to hit this part of town up more often. In Detroit, those that we spoke with had nothing but praise for the big wheel.
I live in Spain and travel around Europe. I know that they have the Eye in London. I was just in Poland. They have one in Krakow. It draws a lot of people to the site, so I think it's a great idea.
If they did something like that, that would be attention grabbing. I feel like a lot of people that come down to the Riverwalk would want to go to Windsor if they saw that.
I probably would just go over there just to get on that for real and catch me a picture or something, catch me a video. Like my friends in Arkansas and Atlanta, like they'll be like, man, yeah, that would be dope.
Though for one resident here who used to come over all the time, there's still one big impediment in his mind that started after 9/11, with or without the Ferris wheel.
I think we came here once and it was like 45 or 50 minutes to get across the bridge. I'm like, I'm never coming back again. Not that I don't love Canada, I'm not going to cross that bridge.
Agostino says the Ferris wheel is one thing, but he's heard lots of ideas of what it could be.
People love the idea of doing a market down here. I talked to a company that would be interested in putting shipping containers down here. I've talked to people that said, hey, yeah, Ferris wheel would be great down on the riverfront. What could we do? How could we help? What's the next step?
The next step, Agostino says, is for council to back a plan brought back by administration to repurpose parking lots, an idea he hopes would renew interest in the downtown core and catch eyes at home and across the way. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
Colette Kennedy joins us now for a look at our weather forecast. Colette, another beautiful sunny fall day today.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with Mother Nature. She gives you a nice gift like this, right?
You take it.
Yes, that's what we're doing. With gratitude. And let's just look, because there are some places across the country where the temperatures are quite a bit cooler. Like, say, across the prairies, we're looking at a series of 10s in terms of the current temperature. Slightly milder in Vancouver, cooler in St. John's at 8. And then kind of clustered here around the Great Lakes area, you see some of these low 20s popping up with the warm spot, at least on this graphic, at the moment being Windsor at 23 degrees. So yes, Mother Nature has been bountiful this fall in terms of us enjoying some milder conditions. But we will be seeing some changes to that at the beginning of next week, where we're kind of knocked back by then closer to seasonal. But some of the other readings, Sarnia also at 23, a little cooler. Goderich, when the breeze comes in off the lake, you're seeing that temperature just is a bit lower. And certainly the flow is generally south to southwest, and that's that flip that pushed our temperatures right back up for today. So clearer skies, quite a bit of sunshine. What cloud cover there's been has been some fair weather cloud. The next feature that we really have to start turning our attention to is this frontal boundary back here to the northwest of us near Lake Superior. Now, generally, it is pretty weak, and by the time it reaches us, I would go so far as to say that it's going to be a little bit moisture starved. So what that will mean for us is that, yeah, we're going to see some cloud cover coming into the picture tomorrow, and probably we'll get a little bit of sun early, and then we'll see those clouds increasing. But as far as showers, an odd kind of stray passing shower here or there, and that's about all we would see from this. So be aware of that, but I don't think it's going to ruin anyone's plans as you're headed through the day. By evening, we see this clearing back out, and that's your clue for the setup for Saturday. We go back to having a ridge of high pressure move through. It gives us some clear skies for Saturday and nice conditions, and then the next system will come in for the second half of the weekend on Sunday. So forecast winds, I'm just showing you this because it'll just be a brief period kind of tomorrow morning towards midday where the winds may become just a little bit gusty as that front is going through, although it's generally weak, as I say. And so with that, you may notice those winds kind of picking up before they shift direction. Overnight tonight, we have the clear skies, 10 degrees. Again, a few areas with some patchy fog. This morning, it was really over towards the Ottawa Valley in eastern Ontario where there's some dense fog and some advisories that went into play. But each night, we've kind of seen a bit of that. 22 degrees tomorrow. There's the afternoon with more clouds and that slight chance of showers. There you go, Saturday, and your temperature profile, 21. Warm on Sunday. That push as the next system comes in with some wet weather and a risk of thunderstorms. And then behind it, you know, Katerina, it looks good at the beginning of next week in terms of the sky conditions. It's just going to be a little cooler than we've been used to.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
Let's take a live look outside there. The sun is starting to set. We can see it over the river. I do want to mention something. Tonight is actually a big reason for celebration for us here at CBC Windsor News at 6 because it has been 30 years since we came back on the air. Now, some of you longtime viewers might remember that we lost the show back in the early 90s for almost 5 years, but after a big push from the union and the community, we came back. And we're happy to still be here. So thanks to all of you, and stay with us. We'll have more after the break.
Feels like home near the mountains where I grew up. I was adopted by school teachers who taught me that in Canada, if you worked at it, you could climb any mountain. People don't feel that way now. In fact, it feels like we're all a long way from home. Our youth can't even afford homes or food. Debt, taxes, and crime are up. Jobs are down. Immigration is broken. Woke obsessions dishonor our history, destroy our education, degrade our military, divide our people. But common sense will lead us home. We'll cap spending, axe taxes, reward work, build homes, uphold families, stop crime, secure borders, rearm our forces, restore our freedom, and unite our people with common values, common sense, common hope for our common home, Canada. Let's bring it home.
One of the world's most important ecosystems is closer than you think. Spanning Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, the prairie grasslands play a crucial yet often overlooked role in our world. Yet we stand on the brink of losing them. Our window to act is now. The Prairie Grasslands Action Plan is leading efforts to conserve more than 500,000 hectares by 2030. And your support is crucial to conserving this vital ecosystem for generations. Donate today to save our prairie grasslands.
Kids these days, people say we lack initiative.
And technology, that we're all addicted.
Kids these days, we hear that we only care about ourselves. Apparently, we're lazy.
And don't seem to have any sense of independence.
Actually, kids these days are facing a lot.
Because the world has changed, and so have our health issues. Kids these days, we could really use your help. Join CHIO in our biggest fundraising campaign ever to transform pediatric care.
Paula and Lynn have found adulting particularly hard today.
But you can adult like a pro with Sonnet Home and Auto Insurance. Just go online and in minutes you're covered. Plus, bundling can save you big time.
Get me some of that.
You cracked the case. And all the while, you were soaking in the bath. Audible. There's more to imagine when you listen.
To support sustainable
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu puts it, this is a tough war and has to be tough against Iran's axis of evil. Now, that includes various militias in the region, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas down in Gaza, and others as well. But the main target, as far as Israel's concerned, is Iran, who is the funder and the backer of most of these other groups. This sort of conflict has been going on, at least verbally, for some time until it broke out in the open in the spring. Now, Israel says that it is time for it to strike back hard. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The skywatchers who look deep into space are having trouble seeing as far as they used to. Thousands of communication satellites are getting in the way. CBC's Nicole Mortellero has the story.
The stunning Milky Way at night, lost to most of humanity due to ground light pollution from streetlights, homes, and cars. But now astronomers are worried about another source of pollution. And it's coming from above. Satellites, mainly driven by SpaceX, which launches its Starlinks roughly twice a week.
If you're launching like 10 satellites, fine, great, no problem. But if you're doing that every week, you can't just consider those 10 satellites, as an isolated thing, right? It's part of this larger cumulative impact.
These satellites are designed to provide internet access around the world, particularly in remote locations, but they're interfering with astronomical research, both in the optical wavelength and in the radio wavelength, which allows astronomers to see what our eyes can't. SpaceX has more than half of all active satellites in orbit, 6,000, and are planning for a total of 42,000.
If this satellite proliferation continues, then it is a huge problem for science. It's a huge problem for being able to observe the universe, to being able to understand what's out there.
SpaceX acknowledges the issue and is working with astronomers to make the satellites dimmer and quieter. Yet, the problems persist. A new study found that second-generation Starlinks are leaking electromagnetic radiation, which creates noise for radio astronomers.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
Further complicating things, SpaceX isn't the only one launching these mega constellations of satellites. China is proposing 40,000 of its own.
I think that we're just on an unsustainable path right now. I think that there's not international coordination is not a priority on anyone's radar right now, and it's more of like a kind of a Wild West space race situation.
Runaway progress at the cost of what we see in the night sky and what we don't. Nicole Mortellero, CBC News, Toronto.
When we come back, a look at the tariff on EVs from China. Stay with us.
Eating should feel as good as laughter. Explore our range of flavors, including the all-new dill pickle. The Laughing Cow, because it's better to laugh.
Everybody knows what you got.
Tap into slots with over 1,000 games and new ones added daily. Tap into slots. Tap into Botano. Botano, the game starts now.
Choose joy. Choose the road. Choose to get out there. Choose to make memories. Choose your calling. Choose to go for it. Just choose. Mazda, we craft cars for those who choose to do more than simply move.
Sure, Vistaprint prints business cards, but we also print these and those. And engrave that. We print your brand on everything so customers can notice you, remember you, and fall in love with you. If you need it, we print it with 20% off for new customers at Vistaprint.ca.
A new deal is at Tim's. $3 for a classic breakfast sandwich when you buy any size hot or iced coffee. You heard that right, just $3 for a classic breakfast sandwich with Canada's favorite coffee. A $3 deal you won't want to miss.
It's time for Tim's.
This is Jennifer.
Hey there.
Jennifer loves cookies, chocolate chip, peanut butter,
All the cookies.
and finding high-performing investments for her clients.
Love it.
And this is Daniel.
Hello.
Daniel loves milk
2% chocolate, almond, oat, you name it.
and has clients who want high-performing investments.
Who doesn't?
The right partner makes everything better, making savings and investments, group insurance, and life and health insurance pretty sweet. Beneva, people protecting people.
Kids these days, people say we lack initiative.
And don't seem to have any sense of independence.
Actually, kids these days are facing a lot. Because the world has changed, and so have our health issues. Join CHIO in our biggest fundraising campaign ever.
Don't miss your chance to see The Lion King, one of the most awe-inspiring productions ever brought to life on stage. Begins November 2nd at the Princess of Wales Theatre.
At OLG, we know guidance can make things more fun. I'm having fun. Me too. And a little advice is a good thing. Hands up.